Hello again. I wanted to make a video that would walk you through how the discussion boards are going to operate in this class because they are going to operate a little bit differently, I think, than you may be used to in other classes. So I want to make sure everyone's on the same page for how these discussions are to go and how they're going to be organized. As a starting point, I'd encourage you to go ahead and open up and take a look at under the assignment instructions, the online discussion instructions, and the discussion rotations, both of which you'll need in order to understand what your role will be each week and what is expected of you in that role to make sure that we sort of facilitate meaningful conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and open up. You can see on the screen now the online discussion instructions. The way the class is structured, again, just to reiterate that, is that we're going to have, you're going to be doing readings and watching videos on the material for for basically the first part of the week up through Monday. And so I expect you to do the readings and watch the videos on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we're going to begin our discussions for the week. And Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday will be filled with conversations about the material. And I've organized you into groups, small groups, to facilitate that discussion. And then you'll conclude the week usually with a learning quiz or an assessment quiz. So I've placed you into groups of 4. And you can go ahead and see that on D2L. So if you just were to click onto the Groups tab, this will open up a link, open up what all the groups are. And you should be able to click in and see what group you're in, as well as perhaps I think you can also see who's in what group. So here you can see in group 1 is Shamanika Harper, Kisa Hazel, Kiera Henley, and Shayla LaRussa. But you can go to and find your name in each of these, whichever group you're in, and that's going to be important for you to know, especially in a few minutes. So you've been placed into a group already, a group of 4. Now, the way the conversation is going to be organized, what I'm trying to do is organize it in a way that's fairly similar to how we organize conversations in a face-to-face class, by putting you in small groups and then trying to give each person a particular role that will help facilitate the conversation. In no way should these roles be understood as limiting how you can participate, but you have to at least fulfill that role in the conversation for the week. So you can see again, if you just go to the second paragraph, you've been placed into groups of 4 each week. One of you will take on a different role. There are 3 roles that are going to be organizing the discussions. There'll be a leader for the week. There'll be 2 people who are responders, and then there will be a synthesizer. All right. And the way, if you just scroll down in the instructions, you can see what those kind of fleshing out of what those roles are. The leader is going to be responsible that week for getting the conversation going. They're going to be the first person to post a response to the prompt, and you will see the prompt both on the discussion board as well as for the week on the syllabus. They're going to have to give an initial answer to the question that's being posed, what they think about that question, how they would go about answering the question. And that person will post by Tuesday at noon their initial response. Then there will be 2 responders who are both tasked with responding to whatever that person has said. You can critique the ideas. Perhaps you don't fully agree with what the leader has said. Perhaps you don't fully understand what they're trying to say. You can ask for clarification. Perhaps you see them as misunderstanding one of the key issues or concepts. So you can raise that. You can raise your own alternative answer, however you want to respond. The only caveat to that is that you are not to simply say, I agree with what this person has said. You have to go beyond a kind of simple affirmation of whatever the leader has posted. So both individuals will do that. And if you just scroll back up, I know I'm kind of a little schizophrenic with how I'm doing this, but it's because to try to better understand this. The responders will post by noon on Wednesday Both responders have to post their responses. What will then take place is a free-form conversation. The leader can come back and respond or clarify if they're asked for clarification. Other individuals in the group, maybe the synthesizer hasn't spoken up yet, they can chime in with their thoughts on the issue, and there'll just be a kind of free-form conversation. Right? Again, think about if you were in a class and you were in a group, and you have one person sort of stating their argument, their position on a particular question or how they answer the question. Other people then chime in and say, hey, this is, I'm not sure I understand this, or this is what I think about it. And then the conversation flows that way. All right. And so Wednesday and Thursday into Thursday morning at least will be a kind of open conversation in which you have this sort of free-form conversation on the question. Again, all members at that point should feel free to post something during that period of time. And then by noon on Thursday, what I expect is for the synthesizer to post a kind of synthetic statement of what's taken place and where that person sees the conversation having led. Right? And so if you just scroll back down to the synthesizer role, the synthesizer is responsible for bringing the key points of the conversation together, summarizing the basic concepts that are being used, highlighting central kind of points of agreement, points of disagreement, and kind of concluding what we think the answer to the initial question might be, or what maybe the group has sort of landed as the best answer to this question. So the precise nature of especially the synthesizer's post is going to vary from week to week depending on what the question is and depending on what how the conversation has gone. But remember, your goal as the synthesizer is to highlight for the group what the kind of core takeaway points from the conversation are. And then others after that can feel free to chime back into the discussion board, clarify what the synthesizer has said, and just kind of come to some agreement on what we sort of see as the key salient points to take away. All right, so what that means then is that each week, each person in that group is going to have a role. You'll either be a leader, one of the two responders, right? So that's 3 people, or the synthesizer. And so what I've done here is I've made a list, or I've made a kind of chart to explain who's going to be doing what each week in each group. We don't start until week 3, which if you're watching this week is next week. We'll be starting these conversations. So we'll start in week 3. And I've given each, I've said what number is going to be in what role each week, right? This then corresponds to on an Excel spreadsheet, which again you can get off of the assignment instructions on D2L. You will see group 1, I've listed out the names of the individuals and given them their number. So in group 1, Shamanika Harper is number 1, Hazel's 2, Henley 3, LaRussa 4. Right, in group 2, Guest is 1, Neil is 2, Toy is 3, Yingling is 4. Right? You can then, what that means is you have a number, right? Right? Giles is number 1 for the group, which means on week 3, right, the beginning week, he or she will be the leader for the group. Right? Week 4, Giles will be the synthesizer for the group. Week 5, Giles will be the responder for the group. So figure out what your number is, right? Where you are in this, which box you're in, and what number you are, and then you can map out what your role will be each week in the discussions. So I hope this provides some clarity into exactly how the conversations are going to go. Again, my goal here is to provide for meaningful conversations. And the way that I'm trying to do that is to break you into groups where you can have small group interaction, where you can get to know one another over the course of the semester, and then sort of mimic the kinds of conversation that you would have in a face-to-face class, and in some ways actually mimic, at least provide some structure to the way that conversations in social media take place on Twitter, Facebook, and all these different platforms where we have these kind of conversations, and at least provide for meaningful conversation. So if you have any questions about this, please let me know. I'm happy to help you understand this a little bit better. I know it may be a little different than you're used to in terms of how the conversation is structured. So let me know if you have any more questions. Take care, and we'll talk soon.